Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and yesterday was supposed to be the sentencing of many, if not all, of those who pled guilty and were convicted in the NXIVM case. Now, I already did a video how I had thought just some of those sentencings had been postponed, but what I didn't realize is that even though on July 15th we found about Keith Raniere and others, Kathy Russell and I believe it was Nancy Salzman had already had theirs delayed indefinitely. So, here's a recap for some of the new viewers if you're unaware of what NXIVM was. Now, you see the thumbnail. That's Clare Bronfman. Her and her sister somehow get involved in this executive success program, which some call, one of these multi-level marketing gimmicks. Others call a cult. It definitely had shades of Scientology in it. In fact, any of the journalism on that will point to those shades, if you will. Raniere was putting out patents. He was claiming almost superhuman powers. He was claiming to be one of the smartest people in the world, IQ-wise, etc., etc., etc. So where does this huckster con man come from? Well, he had already done this with a company called Consumer Byline, and he was kind of out of Arkansas, came to upstate New York, Clifton Park. Now, in my neck of the woods, it's about 80, 90 miles away from me, and even closer when I was growing up in high school, et cetera, et cetera. It's been around for some time. And the local media here, the Times Union, kudos to them, and Metroland, had been covering this for some time, and its sex cult aspects. For instance, even before NXIVM starts, Raniere is alleged to have been with a 12-year-old girl he was mentoring. And from there, it just gets more and more bizarre. For instance, Clare Bronfman here, she's often presented as, the Seagram's heiress. Oh, she's an alcohol heiress, more of this aristocracy, oligarch-style stuff. But in reality, who is she? Well, she's one half of a sisterhood. Sarah, by the way, out of the country. No telling if she would have ever been brought into this, but more than likely. I don't know if we'll ever see her here again. And somehow she finagles a deal where she's sentenced to 21 to 72 months, but if she gets more than 27, I think, she can appeal. And she pays $6 million out. That's nothing. You see, her father, aside from being a Seagram's heir and involved in the Hollywood industry as well, and his son involved in MCA and the music industry, their brother, Edgar Jr., he was also the head of the World Jewish Congress, and he was given the Medal of Freedom by Bill Clinton, mentored Hillary Clinton. So very involved in the political world as well. I couldn't go over all the aspects of this and how he was kind of brought in, took classes, and then supposedly had a falling out and was hacked by NXIVM later. I mean, so much of this is cartoon world. So I want to go to a couple things here. I want to point out right here how odd it is that all the sentencing in this has been postponed. Now, remember, Clare Bronfman put together a legal fund for everybody at $14+ million, and everybody cut a deal but Keith. And when Keith was supposed to put up a defense, he did not. He did not put up a defense. His attorney waived any witnesses and basically went to closing arguments. Think about that, how bizarre that is. It's like shut your mouth. Deals were made. And, we're going to also get into the fact, again, she cuts this sweetheart deal. She was looking at 25 years minimum. That's without the political corruption charges that were also in that indictment that we went over. Oh, you didn't know? That's right. They were donating illegally to Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign for the presidency and 2007 during the primaries. How so? Her and the older Salzman were basically getting everybody in NXIVM to pledge their max amount that they could. And I think it came to something like, I don't want to misquote it, but around $30,000 to buy political favors. And again, they obviously knew who she was as Hillary Clinton spoke at their father's memorial service. Okay? And the connections to the ex-Mexican president's son, I've documented big time as well, Emmanuel Salinas. And let me just say that the sisters are involved. This has to do with ESP, this article. We may read this whole thing because it's that wacky. And one of the more disturbing aspects, other than the multiple levels of sadism and pedophilia against Raniere that I don't think were reported on enough, is that they were running multiple Rainbow Cultural Garden preschools with women that Clare Bronfman had brought into this country through illegal visas, saying that they were teachers when in fact they would end up being sex slaves, okay? And basically putting them in these schools. If you want to see something on that, if you actually type in Rainbow Cultural Guardian, my video is the #1 thing because nobody's reporting on it, just little old me. Little old me. I think that was back before I had 15,000 subscribers I was doing that video. So please, check these out. Share them. So where are we at? Well, Frank Parlato of the Frank Report and Art Voice. Also, I've done a lot of work on this. If you check out my We Are Change stuff on NXIVM, I go over a little mini doc about the whole thing. Now, he publishes a piece called Maria Penza did a great job prosecuting Raniere and deserves her big payday. I, of course, 100% disagree with that, right? Now, Parlato's an interesting guy. He actually worked for NXIVM at one point trying to recoup funds for them. Then they turned on him. Then he, in part, basically focused on them all the way and tried to take them down. And in a way, he really helped take them down. 100%. No doubt about it. But in another way, look what's happened. Who's really going to jail? Was this cut off too early? It was, in my opinion. Yes, it was. And he, to his credit, published this opposing view, which I think is important. And I'm going to read most of it. However, the end part where she basically says something really nasty to Parlato, we're not going to read. This is a response to the article I just talked about. Just because Debbie Lipson attended the trial in person doesn't really persuade me to accept her opinion, except to note her own biases towards prosecutor Maria Kim Penza. And basically the very beginning of it, instead of focusing on the bad decisions she made in trial, they focus on what her fashion. Oh, she's so brave to wear heels. No one's making her wear heels. It was really, that's all in the other piece. So that's the first criticism. But here's what I really like, where they have the outer and inner circle, okay? And thank you so much for the super chat, Light Green Leaf. Keep up the great work, Jason. Much appreciated from you, my friend. I thought the government won its case despite Penza being her first chair, not because of it. The government had a no-lose case. And I thought that Penza's extreme streamlining of the case, whittling it down to just a few witnesses, exactly, thank you, Amy Dye, made Keith seem far less guilty than he really was. Damn straight. And really, again, made Claire seem less guilty, Mac, all of them. None of them had to testify. None of them said a word. Okay? It boiled down to a few gals saying a few bad things while denying the jury the mountain of evidence that would have made Keith seem like a rodent turd that he is. The witnesses against Keith Allen Raniere were. And right here is the full spectrum of people they could have used. Notice Salinas is in here, etc., etc., etc. And they didn't. Instead, they used Lauren Salzman, was the only witness in both the inner circle and a DOS slave. And that is Nancy Salzman's daughter. Yes, he had sex with both of them. This was one of the slaves. But she kept two of the Mexican nationals, who we're going to get into when we read that Daily Mail piece, captive for almost 2 years in a room, regimented an insane diet, and yes, there was pedophilia involved when one of them was 15 and having sex with Raniere. And we're not sentencing her. Why? And we didn't prosecute her. Why? What, because she testified against them with the mountains of evidence that were already there? All these people should be in prison for a very long time. Okay? Especially Clare Bronfman. She should get 25 years in prison. She's going to see less than 2. And you know, with good behavior, she's going to be spending time at a country club resort in her own private wing, because that's how it fucking works for billionaires. So yeah, I'm not happy about any of this. And right now, we don't even know when everyone's getting sentenced. I'm surprised the jury convicted on all counts so quickly since Penza hung her entire case on just a couple of witnesses. I thought she was chicken shit for keeping Allison Mack, Nancy Salzman, off the witness stand. Why? Nancy Salzman led NXIVM for years before being replaced by Clare Bronfman. She was not called to testify. They found $520,000 in cash alone at Nancy Salzman's house. You got $500,000 lying around, guys? I don't. Do you? You get it? All right? They had all sorts of liquid assets. They had all sorts of maneuverability. They had all sorts of insiders. And yes, they had access to kids. And again, there's the mother and daughter combo that get brought in by this. All right? And I'd be smiling too if I was getting away with what I was getting away with. You know, we're not even bringing up all the weird experimentation and stuff. Okay? Allison Mack, who will soon be sentenced. Will she? I don't know. When are we finding out? She wasn't called in, and she was made to look like a victim when she was the right... I mean, she was helping recruit on an active level to bring more and more influence into this. And Nikki Klein, her girlfriend/wife, which was mostly a show, is still out there and helping to run NXIVM. So yeah, they failed. And Bronfman herself, why didn't they bring her up? She is a coward. I totally agree. Even an ambulance-chasing douchebag could have convicted Clare at trial. Anybody could have convicted Clare at trial. There was a mountain of evidence. It was overwhelming. So to get into this Mexican connection and the idea of Scientology and these patents and superpowers, they were trying to train ESP. According to Catherine Oxenberg, the former Dynasty star who helped take down the sex cult, NXIVM leader Keith Raniere was a man on a sick mission. In her new book, Captive of Mother Crusade to Save Her Daughter from a Terrifying Cult, Oxenberg sheds light on a number of Raniere's more sinister schemes. Now remember, her daughter was in the cult, and if you come over to my channel here, and you go all the way down, or you can just go to my NXIVM playlist, or I think it's also, might even be in my documentaries playlist. We've been doing them big. We got over 500 videos on the channel, guys, since the resurrection, it looks like. It's pretty amazing. But if you go all the way down, here we go, we start getting to the NXIVM stuff. NXIVM jury, but if you go right here, NXIVM exposed, boom. Catherine Oxenberg and a lawyer who actually won against the cult in a civil case, as well as Barbara Boucher, the ex-girlfriend of Raniere. This is an almost 2-hour symposium put on by the Times Union Center that I attended and taped. It's a must-watch, okay? Because it does get into a few of the oddities we're going to talk about today. But Oxenberg is a good source. She got her kid out. After introducing her daughter India to NXIVM's executive success programs in 2011, the actress watched as her bright teenage girl transformed into a shell of her former self, falling under the thumb of Raniere and the cruel machinations. A former NXIVM member by the name of Bonnie Piace reached out to Oxenberg to inform her that India was involved in a secret slave master group within the cult known as DOS. This is where we had, it wasn't really branding, it was like a laser incision. We had that going on with these women. Again, underage women involved, trafficking of children, etc., etc. She signed a lifetime vow of obedience and gave damaging control or collateral about herself, and most likely you too. Keith puts them on starvation diets and makes them sign away their possessions, their properties, their bank accounts, and even their future children. They get punished if they don't do what they are told. Okay? Oxenberg says, while gathering information on NXIVM, she discovered that Raniere was set on world domination and had the Mexican connections to make his dreams a reality. Oxenberg notes that ESP had garnered a big following in Mexico. She saw it firsthand when she flew to Mexico City to take an executive success program entitled Family Values. And by the way, if you're wondering about the color of this, I've done a previous video where green was a powerful color in the NXIVM cult. And you can watch video of Salinas with other power players in green while they sing happy birthday to Keith Raniere down in Mexico. Okay? That's why we have that in there. So the group was composed of Mexico City's elite, wealthiest, high society types. The children of 4 former presidents of Mexico have been involved in ESP. Emiliano Salinas, the son of former Mexican President Carlos Salinas, reportedly led NXIVM's Mexico branch, according to Executive Success Program's website. Of course he did. We've done extensive work on that. Salinas was a member of ESP's executive board since 2009 and co-owned ESP centers in Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Los Angeles. You can read the rest of this and how crazy it gets. But there you go. There you go. And remember, we're talking about Mexican nationals kept in rooms, starvation diets, etc., etc. We're talking about international trafficking of women and young girls. All this stuff. 25 years. She should have been looking at way more than 25 years. And now we don't even know who's going to serve what. It's really sad. And it's kind of disgusting. Guys, I'm a documentary filmmaker. Loose Change, Final Cut, and Fabled Enemies, both on the 9/11 attacks. We've got the 18th anniversary coming up tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a lot of work on that. So make sure to tune in later today at 2 p.m. I'm going to have Richard Gage on for quite some time discussing the new World Trade Center 7 paper and much more. You can also see Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture over here at my channel if you go into my playlists. And you check out the documentaries down here. They're right there. Boom, you just click, and you can watch them all for free if you like my work. I'm doing it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. I'm doing it with your help. $5, $10, $15 means the world to me via GoFundMe. Don't have a Patreon. Don't have a subscribe star. I'm not really fit for mainstream media. All my videos get demonetized. I have to then request a review and just hope for the best after most of the views are taken away from me. But we are making it with you guys, and it's always about right and wrong, guys. We're never going to take a left-right perspective at all here, and that's why this NXIVM thing is so important because, again, this is about children. This is about power. This is about abuse in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, in the art world. This has so many things attached to it that more light needs to be shed on NXIVM, and we can't just let it go away. With that being said, I will see you guys on the flip side.